Morning. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting for May 18th, 2022. We're going to begin with the salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. We have a couple presentations this morning, and we're going to start with Emergency Medical Services Week. It's be my pleasure to read a proclamation from the Commissioners. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service directly responsible for saving, extending, and improving countless lives each year. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the theme of EMS Week 2022 is Rising to the Challenge, which pays tribute to the brave frontline professionals who work tirelessly day in and day out. And whereas Bucks County's emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it has never been more appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of our emergency medical services providers. Now, therefore, do we, the Bucks County Board of Commissioners, hereby proclaim the week of May 15th to the 21st, 2022, as Emergency Medical Services Week throughout the County of Bucks. In doing so, we join all Bucks County residents in thanking those who have dedicated their lives to ensuring the safety and well-being of others throughout the administration of swift, life-saving medical treatment. So, and especially considering the last 2 years and what that's meant to the people in this service, it's our honor to be here. I know Evan Resnikoff is here somewhere to speak. There he is, okay. Come up to the podium, please. Love to have you say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the EMS providers and the EMS chiefs of EMS organizations of Bucks County, we want to thank the commissioners for their strong support of the emergency medical services over the last few years and their continued will to work with us and strengthen our EMS system in Bucks County. This morning, I wanted to just introduce, make mention of the organizations that came up here this year. We're represented by, if you guys can still hear me there, I'll talk close to the microphone. We have Upper Bucks Regional EMS, Shalbritt Regional EMS, Newtown Ambulance, Levittown Fairless Hills Ambulance, Yardley Makefield EMS, Trihampton Rescue Squad, Pendle Middletown Emergency Squad, Central Bucks Ambulance, and Bucks County Rescue Squad, which is located in Bristol. And this is about 2/3 representation of the organizations that do serve the county through 16 ambulance services and 3 air medical services that provide emergency medical services to the residents, visitors, and business owners of Bucks County. We really appreciate, again, the county government has given us unprecedented support, especially the last 2 years, to be able to continue to do what we do and to help us work through our future challenges to continue to provide service to the county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, an honor to have you here. Yeah, thank you. You want to come up?
And bring anybody
Yeah,
you
bring,
want
if
with
they
you.
want to come up, they're welcome to come up.
Come up.
Come on up.
Come on, you guys. Women.
We'll get a picture.
Hold up, stay here.
Yeah. Well,
That's
thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. That's awesome. Yeah.
I just texted you. Did you want to talk? It's really nice of you to come all the way up here from Jefferson.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next presentation, I just want to make a comment. With all the people here from the rescue squads, I think it's important, I think for most Bucks County residents, to understand an issue about funding. When I was a Falls supervisor, part of the tax dollars for Falls Township went to the rescue squads that served Falls Township. There were 2 of them. And yet there are still funding issues. And a lot of the funding issues are tied to the fact that if someone needs an ambulance, they go to a hospital for whatever reason, that ambulance has difficulty getting payment. That company has a tough time getting payment for that service they provide. The state of Pennsylvania does not really make it easy for rescue squads to bill an insurance company. A lot of times what happens, an insurance company sends money to the person, the patient, who has received the service, and then that patient is expected to pass on that money to the rescue squad, which really leaves the rescue squads in difficult shape because then they have to actually chase down those people, have collection agencies, and it really cuts into what they can do for the incredibly necessary work that they have to have done. This is something that has to change in Harrisburg. We don't have the authority to change it. Yesterday, we saw people win primary elections for state senate and state rep, both parties. I would ask people in this community in Bucks County to start asking questions of those people running for office about what they're going to do to support making sure rescue squads get the funding they need, and if they're going to stand up to defend the rescue squads or if they're going to stand on the side of the insurance companies who would prefer to not have it that easy to have to dish out the money they have to dish out. That would go a long way, in addition to local communities supporting rescue squads, which not all of them do, with their tax dollars. I think that's an incredibly necessary thing that has to happen, not just about the state, and it's a bipartisan issue. It's something that I think has to be done. It's not about one party. This is about doing what's right to the people, just the people you saw here and are still in the room, and for everybody else out there who does all the work that's needed to be done. So thank you for being here, and we'll continue to do what we can to help you. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right. This is also Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month, and Commissioner Marseglia has a proclamation she'd like to read.
Thank you very much. Whereas cystic fibrosis, commonly known as CF, affects more than 30,000 children and adults in the United States and more than 70,000 worldwide. And whereas CF is a progressive genetic disease that clogs the lungs, causes long-lasting infections, limits the ability to breathe over time, and obstructs the pancreas and other parts of the body. And whereas people with CF can have a variety of symptoms, including a persistent wheezing, exercise intolerance, repeated lung infections, inflamed nasal passages, and recurrent sinus issues. And whereas the type of symptoms and the course of the disease runs and differs widely from person to person depending on when the person is diagnosed. Whereas until recently, a child with CF barely lived long enough to attend elementary school. But today, many people with CF achieve their dreams of attending college, pursuing careers, getting married, and having children. And whereas although significant progress has been made in treating CF, there is still no cure, and too many lives are cut short. So now, therefore, do we, the Bucks County Board of Commissioners, hereby proclaim May 2022 as Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month throughout the County of Bucks. And in so doing, we encourage all Bucks Countyans to learn more about this complex disease and those who struggle with it, and help to educate friends, our coworkers, family members, so that cystic fibrosis awareness community can grow and strengthen.
Okay, and I know we have Anna Payne here, and she's brought along a friend who she will introduce.
Anna happens to be both my assistant, and she's an elected Middletown Township supervisor.
Okay, I guess I'll take this off so you can hear me. First, I want to thank the County Commissioners for declaring May CF Awareness Month and introduce my friend, one of the members of the Bucks County Cystic Fibrosis Alliance, Nick Mariana. Nick has a son, Zach, who is 7, who also has cystic fibrosis. For those of you that don't know, cystic fibrosis is a rare genetic disease that impacts the lungs, pancreas, digestive system. It can also impact other organs as well. Basically, anything in your body that is lined with mucus can be impacted by cystic fibrosis. There are about 30,000 people in the United States that have CF. Of that 30,000, 1,490 of them live in Pennsylvania. The current life expectancy of a person born with cystic fibrosis between 2015 and 2019 is still only 46 years old. When I was born in 1987, my parents were told I wouldn't live long enough to graduate high school. I'm now 35, and I would be lying if I told you the last 35 years have been anything but easy. Growing up, I had to take 40 to 50 pills a day and do hours of breathing treatments, which I still do. And I was in and out of hospitals. I always had to take extra precautions when people were sick by staying 6 feet apart and wearing a mask. When COVID hit in 2020, it was all so eerily familiar to me. The masking, the social distancing had been part of my life since I was 9 years old. Due to infection control guidelines, CF patients can't be within 6 feet of each other, and we still have to mask up. I've been wearing masks to school and in the airport and other places before it was cool. I assumed I was just ahead of my time. We do this to keep ourselves safe and to keep each other safe. Living with cystic fibrosis can be very isolating for these reasons. But it is the key to keeping each other safe and staying healthy. So like I said, when COVID hit, we watched as everyone else had to just play by our rules. I attribute the infection control guidelines and protocol for keeping me healthy all of these years. In 2018, a book about cystic fibrosis hit the New York Times bestsellers list. The book is called 5 Feet Apart, which was actually written by a Bucks County native, so I'll give her a shout out, Rachel Lippincott. And it goes into detail about what living with cystic fibrosis is like. The book also became a movie that hit theaters in March of 2018. Well, that story may have made the bestsellers list. The story I would like to tell you is the one of all the progress that has been made in research. The life expectancy has doubled for patients over the last 30 years. I never thought I would live to be 35. I didn't think that it was ever in the cards for me. And while it hasn't been easy, it's definitely worth it. And I'm so grateful for all the advocates, families, and patients who have helped ensure that Zach and I can have more tomorrows. While we've come so far, our mission is not done until we find a cure. A mission that, in my opinion, has become so critical. In July of 2021, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. The only cause is the genetic defect that is caused by cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis patients are 6 to 10 times more likely to develop colon cancer than other groups. I now live, I don't suffer or survive, I live with cystic fibrosis and colon cancer. And I hope that we find a cure. And if I was a betting woman, my money is that we will find a cure for CF. In 2020, myself and Nick and two other Bucks County families formed the Bucks County Cystic Fibrosis Alliance to help raise awareness and money towards finding a cure, but also to help families local to Bucks County with any medical and social needs they might have. For me, this is a mission of the heart, something that I can see and feel the urgency of every day, and it gives me a reason to keep fighting. I want to conclude once again by thanking everyone for recognizing May as CF Awareness Month and encourage everyone to keep doing our part to keep each other safe and healthy. Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, this is also Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and Commissioner DiGirolamo has a proclamation he would like to read.
Thank you. Whereas May is recognized throughout the United States as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Bucks County is proud to be home of tens of thousands of people who trace their roots to Asia and the Pacific Islands, and whose languages, cultures, art, and religious belief enrich our community. It is impossible to overstate the contributions to our community of those of Asian and Pacific Islander descent, many of whom are recognized in our region as leaders in medicine, law, technology, education, and business. Whereas people of Asian and Pacific Islander origin are our treasured friends, family, and neighbors here in Bucks County, where we are committed to embracing and accepting the residents of diverse backgrounds. Whereas Bucks County is home to the Pearl S. Buck International Charitable Organization, which carries on writer, activist, and humanitarian Pearl Buck's legacy of bridging cultures and changing lives through humanitarian aid, intercultural education, and tours of the historic Pearl S. Buck House in Upper Bucks. Now, therefore, do we, the Board of the Bucks County Commissioners, hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 to be Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month throughout the County of Bucks. In so doing, we recognize the many vital contributions of the Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who call Bucks County home. We celebrate their rich history and cultures and encourage all county residents to do the same. Congratulations, and I don't mind letting everybody know, which I have on many occasions, that I have two adopted daughters from South Korea who are 39 and 36 years old. We got them when they were just infants from South Korea. They flew over in a plane, landed at Kennedy Airport in New York City. So this proclamation has very special meaning for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And from the Pearl Buck International, we have Anna Katz, and also one of our board members, Mr. Shams Huda. And Mr. Huda is also a member of the Bucks County Community College Board of Trustees. Ms. Katz?
Hi, and good morning. And I must say, you're already...
A little closer to the mic.
Closer?
There you go, yeah.
You have already done half of my presentation, but I do have a slide presentation. I want to thank you so much. I feel like Pearl S. Buck International and Pearl S. Buck is this cherished icon that is the biggest secret ever in Bucks County. So when thinking about coming here today, I thought about the rich history we have, like such a long history in recognizing Asian American families and Pacific Islanders. Pearl S. Buck was dedicated to this cause so many years ago. So maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay. Okay, so Pearl S. Buck, as you said, was a writer, humanitarian, and also an activist. She was the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize and the Pulitzer Prize. One of the key, her key to fame is The Good Earth. That book was based on her experience in China. She spent the first 40 years of her life in China. She was born at 3 months, she was born in West Virginia, and at 3 months old, her parents, who were missionaries, took her to China. She only returned to the United States at the age of 20 when she went to school, and then she went back to China until she was 40. So that gave her the beginning of really understanding what it means to sort of navigate through different cultures. While she grew up with Chinese people, her parents, a little bit different than your average missionary family, decided to live amongst the Chinese people. So she really learned their customs and learned how it was to be so different. This tall, blonde woman in the midst of, being in China. So she learned how it was to be different. And then coming back here, she tried to, adjust to being in America, and also had difficulties, given that she did spend the first 20 years of her life in China. So she had that whole awareness of the need to understand different cultures from a very young age. Okay. Okay, so when she was 40, she came back to Bucks County. One of the things that she saw, as her book, The Good Earth, became popular all over the world, she had the ability to travel to many Asian countries as well as European countries. And one of the things that was so important to her is children having equal opportunity and to be able to grow and learn. So her heart went out to vulnerable children. And what she saw in these countries were that wherever American military bases were, there were many, many Amerasian children. And these children were not accepted by their own cultures and also not recognized because most US families didn't even know they existed. So what she did when she got back here was she established the first adoption agency for Amerasian children. So 7,000 families were formed based on that adoption agency. An amazing task. Well, everybody knows about her writing and how wonderful and special she was in writing. She produced probably 1,000 different publications. One of the things that people might not know about her is that she was an activist. She was a humanitarian and an activist, and she fought for women's rights, for civil rights, for children's rights, and for even in children's rights, for those children with different abilities. So she was a staunch supporter of many different causes in this country. When she was in China, her mom raised her in quote unquote an American family setting, even though she was in the midst of China. But the only thing she knew about America was through books and what stories that were told to her. When she came back here 40 years later to really live, is when she discovered the discrepancies between the ideology she was taught and the actual practical experiences. That's when she took up all these different causes. She spoke for the Urban League and for for the NAACP. So she was a staunch supporter of human rights. Okay, next slide, sorry. Okay, so how we carry out her legacy today. We are in 7 different Asian countries, and what we do is we provide psychosocial support, education, nutrition, and the basic necessities to about 1,100 children. And we do this through a child sponsorship program. So we have about 1,100 sponsors that sponsors 1,100 children. We also have all different kinds of projects. Our affiliates all over the world write to us about the kinds of projects they want us to get involved in, and we try to raise the money necessary for them to be able to achieve their goals. Next slide.
We opened in Kenya as well.
What?
We opened in Kenya.
Oh, okay, so thank you. Okay, so we're open in 7 Asian countries, and this year we also opened in Kenya. Thank you. Okay, and here in America and in Bucks County, we also do our own version of Prost Bucks Legacy. We have a global leadership program, which is a program for high school students. It's a 2-week session, a couple of times during the summer, and now we're doing it throughout the year. But throughout the year, we're doing it virtually. In the summer months, we're doing it in person. And what it is, it's a program to develop leadership skills and to teach the skills of working with each other. People from all different backgrounds are able to participate. During COVID, when we had to go virtual with all of our programs, it was, although difficult, more hours for students to be, on a Zoom call. However, we were able to expand our scope. So we actually had students from Korea involved in this program. We had students from all over this country as well as students from Bucks County. So that was a plus, and we're going to try to maintain some of that. Welcome Workplace is our training and education designed for businesses and nonprofits. We provide workshops and comprehensive strategies on how we make our workplace more comfortable for all people. It's a version of diversity, equity, and inclusion types of programming. And so we also do that here in Bucks County. Additionally, we are now opening ourselves up for just public lectures and conferences on the kinds of issues that Prost Buck would embrace. And some of that would be multiculturalism. How do we begin from very different and varying backgrounds to start to be able to communicate to each other? As we all know, this country seems to be more and more divided. We are trying to be that bridge between people having a safe space to come and talk about differing points of view, and to get back that notion that we can actually agree to disagree, which seems to be totally lost. But in a nutshell, that is what we are about. Okay, last slide, I think. Next slide. Okay, this is the house. This is Pearl's Buck's house, and we do 2 tours there, a traditional tour and the Taking Action tour. The Taking Action tour reflects her advocacy, and it's really special. It's really cutting edge in the museum world because it's a dialogical process. It's not somebody there just lecturing. We include you every step in the way in terms of dialogue and raising issues of our times. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we have Weddings for a Cause. So June of last year, we opened up a conference and event center. And while that is one of the spaces to create a free space and a safe space to communicate and have dialogue around different issues, which we do there, it is also a wedding venue. And so we are just right now starting to do our own weddings. So if you know, I would say come visit us, okay? And if anybody's looking for a wedding venue, please contact us. So we say it's a wedding with a cause because the proceeds go to help support our house and all of our programs. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, please come forward, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Huda, sorry.
Yeah, my name is, excuse me, my name is Shams Huda, and I have lived in Bucks County since December of 1982. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, most of my work was done in Montgomery County. So I felt very elated and very relieved when I got a call to join the Board of Trustees of Bucks County Community College. Since then, I've been sleeping very soundly because now I don't feel guilty at all. So I have started to serve Bucks County community as well, Bucks County as well. The few things that I would like to add on so that you know that I do a lot of marketing and publicity. So since I'm a board member of Pearl's Buck, I want to request all of you to come to see the house because that's where she used to live. Pearl's Buck used to live. And I was fortunate enough, before I came to this country, I was fortunate enough to read the Good Earth book. So when I came to know that she lived so close by, I had goosebumps. The first thing I did is visit her house. And I'm telling you, if you come, you will be very captivated because the books that she used to read and some of the, where she used to sit to write books, those elements are still there. So you'll see where she used to sit, where she used to write, and what her books was. And she had a tremendous library. I think it was at least about this, totally about this room full of books. So you'll feel very elated to know that she was one of us who lived so close by. Now, so it'll be very good if you come and visit the house, and I can guarantee you that you'll love it. Having said that, we have as a board member, first I was not aware as to why I'm coming here, but I was just told that the chairman of the board could not come, so I was asked to come in his place. So I hope I can do a good job on his behalf. Now, so another thing I'd like to tell you that Pearl's Buck had originally started to work on 6 countries, almost all of them, not almost all of them in Asia. We have added 2, and the third one is also will be added very soon. That hopefully will be Nepal. And we want Pearl's Buck, since it's known as the PSBI, Pearl's Buck International. So we really want to make it an international entity. So we'll add more countries, and hopefully we'll add something that will benefit the children of this country as well. So having said that, let me digress as to my work in Montgomery County, and that will be very essential for me to tell because I have been looking for this opportunity for a long time. Based on what is happening nowadays, especially the incident in Buffalo, we need to think as to what we need to do so that we can minimize, if not eliminate, at least minimize these incidents. And if we, from my point of view, it's a shame on us, all of us, not just me, all of us, that these kind of things happen. And it may still happen, but what we do so that it doesn't happen, that is the most important thing. So we must try to do something very effective. And then at least we'll feel that we are trying. So we must try. And I'm going to let you know that I'm also the co-chair of something known as the International Spring Festival. And that festival is held at the North Penn High School. And this year was the 32nd year we held the festival. We usually hold the festival in the month of April. So we held it on the 23rd of April. And about 7,000 plus people came. And our mission is to bring people together. We don't teach diversity. That's, by the way, one thing that you'll not hear from me. Diversity should not be taught. Diversity should be embraced. And we should facilitate opportunities for people to come and mingle and make friends. That is the best way to implement diversity. So hopefully you'll remember that. And as a board of trustee of Bucks County Community College, I'm trying to convince Felicia, the president, and other board members that we should hold a similar event in Bucks County so that we can bring people together. And I know demography-wise, Bucks County is not as diversified as Montgomery County is, but nevertheless, it has some population that we need to address. And the other thing I would like to request you to know that what we do is not just for the ethnic communities. We do it for all Americans. We don't want to exclude anybody, and we don't want to make anybody feel that they are not included. Everybody is included. So that's one very important thing that I would like you to think about, that when we think about diversity, we should think about the local people as well, the Caucasians. We should not make them feel that they are not part of it. If we do that, then we are doing something wrong. We should always make them feel we are here as new immigrants, but we are here to help them. And there's a lot of things that people are not aware of. For instance, even small countries contribute a lot. I happen to have come from Bangladesh. Just when Bangladesh was formed, I left the country and came here. So it was about 50 years ago that I came here. And the number of my passport was 4, so that was the first day passport was issued. Now, I feel proud that the Nobel Prize that Pearl Buck had won, it was on literature. She won the Nobel Prize in literature. And it so happens the first Nobel Prize in literature in Asia was also won by a Bengali. So I feel very happy about that. Now, having said that, although Bangladesh is a very small country, it produced not a Nobel laureate. Well, he got the Nobel Prize in Peace. His name was Muhammad Yunus. And you see the tall structures, the buildings, the tallest buildings, the structural design was given by Bangladeshi. So there are contributions that are made by all the people that have come here. And this has to be known to all the other people. So the immigrants are not here to rob anything. The immigrants are here to contribute. And that has to be felt. And the other request I have, whenever we hold some events in the ethnic communities, I would humbly request the public servants, especially the higher-ups, to come and attend those. Then you portray the picture that you are part of it. You are giving a message to all the people that, hey, we are all together. And if they do not participate, then the people get the wrong message. So my humble request is, let us not see these events that happen in Buffalo continue. We have to do something, and unless we do something, we should not feel comfortable. That's my humble request.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I know we took a lot of time, but if you can go to the last slide. I just want to leave you with this message. Of course, you know, Crossbuck was so beyond her times, and this is a quote from her. All of us must learn to enjoy knowing as friends those whose race and ways may be different from ours. Knowledge must lead to understanding in order that enjoyment may be a pleasant fruit, enriching life for all of us. So I leave you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, come
Okay,
up,
we're
please.
gonna
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. All right, move on to public comment. Thank you. Okay, Andy Warren.
Morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be up here as the second our Middletown Township resident to speak to you this morning. Not nearly as eloquent as the first, who has become the champion voice of Middletown, but a pleasure to be here and follow her anywhere. Two quick things, maybe three. Item 4A, a $28,000 contract that we're passing today for work that was done last year. Does that mean that for a year, people were doing work with no contract, but now we're going to pay for it? And secondly, item 8A, the continuation of COVID-19 money on into May of next year. And I've asked it before. I don't quite figure out how to ask it correctly, but how long does this continue? How long are these effects going on? Have we spent the money that we've gotten and will one day reach the end of this emergency and federal emergency dollars? And finally, with the transition report, 3 years ago when you all came into office, there was a number of items, some even good.
2 years. 2 years.
Time is dragging on.
You're trying to get me out of here faster, I think.
At any rate, when you all came into office, in the transition report, there were a number of items, obviously, one of which talked about the revamping of the law department, the solicitor's office, and reducing assistance, et cetera. And I just note as an observation that we're going to pass the personnel item, and if history of the last 2 years is any precedent, there'll be no discussion of it whatsoever. I just note that on today's report, personnel item, there's 4 positions in the legal department, the solicitor's department, 3 of which are assistant solicitors. The total is $300,000 in salaries. And I just observed, we remember the transition report. We're watching.
Sure. Yeah, I think we can
We
address this.
being residents, taxpayers.
I got you. All right, a couple things. we'll address those questions. Mr. Warren's the only person who signed up. So in terms of the CMG of Easton for the corrections, the contract with the women's facility, I'm not sure who wants to address that. You know, Mr. Spencer can talk about that.
Yes, regarding the CMG change order, this is actually change order work that was done earlier this year as we were wrapping up that project, completion of punch list items and township inspections. But essentially, it involves additional painting of conduits. You know, there's some temporary fencing, some other items, changes in the contract that came on throughout the end of the project. That's what this is covering, the remainder of that work.
Okay.
To kind of close that out.
So that's what you said earlier, from earlier this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not from last year. It's just the total contract spans that time frame.
Okay, thank you. That's a change order,
Change
yes.
order, yes.
Yeah. The other issue, the other item raised by Mr. Warren was about the community college approving a contract increase for the CDBG funding to provide technical assistance and training for county residents affected by COVID-19. I think certainly the economic impacts of the pandemic are still with us. The supply chain, you stop or for the most part slow down a global economy. It has not picked up the way it should, and obviously that is something we're still dealing with. Not to mention the changes to the workforce, people leaving the workforce in large numbers and not returning largely through retirement. And so, certainly the economic impact of the largest pandemic in 100 years is going to be around for a little while. So that's really addressing that issue.
I just want to add, because you've kind of asked this at many meetings, this is going to continue till 2023, maybe 2024. That's the federal regulation on how this money has to be spent, and we can't just throw it out there. There's all kinds of regulations and rules to make sure that it's accounted for, so you're going to keep seeing this and seeing this for some time to come.
Yeah. So, in terms of the law department, I'll let Mr. Khan address that.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. We're always happy to have a chance to talk about the success of the administration. As Mr. Warren said, one of the key recommendations of the transition team was to reduce outside legal costs, and this administration has been incredibly successful at doing that. We reported out previously that we finished out this administration's first year reducing outside legal costs by more than $400,000. And even if you account for the increase in hiring, the county still saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, to say nothing of the increase in quality. And so I think if you look at the personnel list, you'll see just more examples of how tight we've been with the dollar. The two new positions or two new hires, you'll see are two people who are replacing individuals who are paid at a higher rate than the people coming in are coming in at, and both of those positions, particularly the paralegal position, has been vacant for I think about 8 months. So we've been stretched pretty thin, but we're happy to continue to provide outstanding service to the county while reducing our outside costs. You'll see even one of our junior attorneys who's getting a raise after her first year is still being paid less, far less, to work full-time than her predecessors were paid when they were part-time, because again, we've really tightened things up, made sure that we have outstanding service, and that the county has committed public servants doing the business of the people.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we will go on to take a look at the consent agenda. Are there any questions about the minutes from the last meeting? No. Okay, before I ask for a motion on the consent agenda, I just want to highlight a few things in terms of some of the things on here. Again, the consent agenda is largely measures that the commissioners agree upon, and there really isn't a whole lot to sort of highlight, although sometimes we choose some things to highlight. But just as an idea, the county, and this consent agenda, is approving about $403,000 going to different agencies that address senior citizens in Bucks County. About $1.2 million is going to children and youth to help children in our county, making sure they're safe, providing safe and supportive visitation situations, addressing after-school needs, foster care issues. We are approving about $1.1 million in bridge repair. The county does not own roads. I know it's, the potholes seem to be living longer this spring than they usually live. And certainly that's something if you can talk to PennDOT or your local municipalities about. But we do own bridges, and so includes preparation for work on engineering work on one bridge and repairing an existing one, or another one, I should say. We are approving, as was said, excuse me, about $113,000 to the community college. It's for them to train people who are looking for work, looking to improve their skills, better themselves, to make, obviously make our community even stronger. We are approving about $90,000 for new playground equipment at Lake Towey, Tinicum Park, and Tehican Valley Park. And also, we're approving $52,000 for ballistic vests to keep our probation officers safe. So just some of the highlights of things that we're doing in terms of where tax money's going, whether it's state tax money, federal money, or county money. So if there are no questions on the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda and the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, thank you. All right, for the regular agenda, something else that came out of the transition report, I also should mention, thank you, Mr. Warren, for reminding me. The county is working. There was a suggestion a couple meetings ago by a resident about essentially like a status report card for the transition steps. And so that's being worked on through my staff, my office, and also through the communications department. So we're hoping to have something up on our website somewhat soon. It's been about 2 years since that transition report was released. We've made a lot of progress on it, just heard about the law department's progress, but we've made a lot of positive steps. There's still things we're working on, some of the bigger, longer-term fixes. And so that status report will be put up on the website at some point, hopefully in June, we're looking at, I think, right? Okay. June 15th. Okay, all right, so that's coming up. One of the other things, talking about the regular agenda, things that we're focusing on, is doing everything we can as an entity to provide any kind of training opportunities to help our employees improve themselves. Now, there's specific training, attorneys go through CLEs, nurses, at the manor go through standard training they have to go through. People who are certified in different things for emergency services, for example, there's periodic certifications, IT, et cetera. But we're talking more about leadership training. And so one of the things that we're doing here with item number 19 is something that I was kind of been pushing for about a year or so to try and find a way to make this successful. I want to thank our Chief Clerk and Deputy COO, Gail Humphrey, with all her work on this. We found that the community college offers leadership training, and our division leaders, department heads, and row officers have all been offered the opportunity to designate some employees in their offices who they see, some leadership potential in. These are people who, they really, are proud to work with, and they feel like, this is somebody who you can see taking a leadership role at some point in this county in the future. And so we're having one session working with the community college in this fall and another one next year. About 18 employees will go to each one, and each of those sessions. This is something the community college has done in other entities, other areas. We did look around at a variety of different providers of this kind of service. The community college impressed us the most and also came in actually with a lower price. So it really is, and obviously working with the college, we're keeping the money local. And so we're taking money in Bucks County, using it in Bucks County, serving employees of Bucks County, helping the citizens of Bucks County. So very, very proud of that effort and appreciate the work that Ms. Humphrey was doing on that. And then we also are moving one of our items we moved off involves emergency management. And this is approving Berks County amendment to the Task Force Mutual Aid and Cooperation Agreement. And Audrey Kenny, our Emergency Management Coordinator, is here to speak.
Hi, good morning, thank you. We are asking for approval to welcome Berks County into the Southeast region as a part of our task force. They will be a little bit of a modified partner within the region. The task force manages the Homeland Security grant funds as well as the UASI funds related to the city of Philadelphia and the collar counties. Berks was in a region that has dissolved, and they needed a home. So the state came to the region and asked us to welcome them into the group. They've been a partner within the 911 community for over a decade, so it seemed a really good fit to bring them in. In order for them to use their state Homeland Security money, they need to be part of a region, so this is where it's a good fit for them as well. The task force overall really does a lot of coordination on behalf of the Southeast region, whether it's terrorism events or large-scale demonstrations or things that are happening within the Southeast. We've been a part of the planning and the coordination of all those different resources. We provide training, planning, the DIVIC, the intelligence center that's in the city of Philadelphia, to help us stay in line with things that may be affecting us politically or in other, I'm losing the word here, but basically just to make sure that we're aware of things that could affect the safety and the security of the residents here in the region. So roughly about $15 million comes into the Southeast on an annual basis, and then the directors make some decisions about what sorts of initiatives and threats we need to focus that energy into. Berks is going to be a part of the overall planning for the region.
All right, any comments or questions regarding either of the regular agenda items? I guess the only question I would have is, with Berks coming in, the fact that they were in a region and they got transferred, or that dissolved and is coming here. You mentioned roughly $14 million. With the addition of Berks, does that mean additional funding for the region?
It does not. They will not have access to that part of the funding. It's strictly for their Homeland Security grant funding.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the regular agenda, the commissioner's item? Good.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Personnel actions. Is there are there any comments or questions regarding personnel actions? If not, is there a motion to approve the personnel actions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. For other civics, the county is making contributions to the Charles Kane Emergency Fund, $1,350, to the Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans for $1,000, for the Youth Orchestra of Bucks County, $3,000. Is there a motion to make those contributions?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Chief Operating Officer's report, Ms. McKevitt.
Thank you, Commissioner. I only have one item I'd like to talk about, and that is to thank Gail Humphrey, our Deputy COO and Chief Clerk and Overseer of Board of Elections. Yesterday, we held an election, and congratulations to all the candidates that won. Our staff consistently amazes me when they come together and perform the way they did yesterday. It was tremendous, and they did a great job. Every department was represented. We have some things we're going to look at in terms of getting the drives back maybe a little quicker, potentially reading them in a different location and try and tighten up the time frame for reporting. But I am thankful for each and every one of the staff that came out yesterday and for the folks that were here supporting them. It was tremendous. So I just want to recognize them and tell them that we appreciate them very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Solicitor's report.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll begin by reporting out that the board had its standing executive session yesterday morning when it met with staff and legal counsel, in particular to discuss pending and potential litigation claims. The board also met on May 19th and again on May 16th, again with the staff and legal counsel. This was to discuss an ongoing investigation in the Controller's office. Second, Commissioner, we are extremely happy to talk about the law department's progress in building an affirmative litigation program. There's an item on the consent agenda that's another opportunity to work with an outside law firm that wants to work with Bucks County, exploring potential claims that we can bring not as a defendant but as a plaintiff to try and affirmatively seek recovery, seek money or other kinds of relief for Bucks County. We took a major step forward just this month. Bucks County was selected for the Affirmative Leaders Fellowship In particular, our first assistant, Amy Fitzpatrick, was designated as our representative to participate in a national program that invests in public law departments, whether it's in an attorney general's office or solicitor's office or DA's office or other government agency, to help develop programs like what we've been building here in Bucks County. This is going to mean a tremendous amount of resources in terms of training, but also in terms of expanding the profile in a network so that it becomes even more common for firms that want to work with Bucks County at no out-of-pocket cost to us, to vindicate consumer rights, to protect our environment, to defend voter rights. All the things that we've been doing steadily but surely, I think are really going to kick in a high gear with the participation of Bucks County in this program. So thanks very much to Amy for your work in getting us there and for doing that hard work. Finally, on a personal note, Commissioners, as a new member of Bucks County's Asian American Pacific Islander community, I do want to express my personal thanks to all of you for not just beginning a tradition of recognizing this month through a proclamation, as you have done, but really continuing to do that outreach throughout the year. As Mr. Huda mentioned, the importance of showing up at public events, as you all have done and continue to do, is so important because this work of diversity and equity and inclusion, it doesn't happen organically without effort. And I was in particular struck by Mr. Huda's comment that he's lived in Bucks County for now 30 years. And it wasn't until he got a phone call under this administration to join the Bucks County Community College Board that he ever had an opportunity to serve as a member of the community, not just be accepted or even recognized, but really included in a leadership role like that. And it's a true testament to the hard work and the values of all three commissioners. So on that note, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Public comment. This is about other items here. Any other item? Mr. Warren.
Pardon, it occurred to me as I was sitting there, I wasn't the second Middletonian, I was the third. I wasn't excluding you by any stretch of the imagination. Two quick, I had one, now I've got two, following up on your comments about Berks County. I was excellent to hear they won't be bringing any more money, as I understood it. But my question would be, if the organization they were members of dissolved, there must have been more than Berks County in it, and will they be following suit, or do we know any of that? Sweden and Finland, we welcome to the NATO. Are we expanding beyond southeastern Pennsylvania? And the point that I was going to speak to, if anyone has not had enough of politics and electioneering over the last 24 hours, you are most welcome to come to Northampton Township Library this evening for a reunion of two of Bucks County's longest-serving past congressmen. Congressman Kostemeyer, Congressman Greenwood will be coming for a reunion to talk about Congress as they see it now compared to when they were there. They're campaigning, and it all has come from a most interesting, recently written book about Bucks County government that has brought them together. If anybody is interested, we'd love to see you tonight. It's free, 6:30, and it'll only be an hour and 15 minutes.
All right, thank you. Thank you. To be honest, it was something I do actually have something on my agenda. I have a meeting I'm already committed to, but it was something I would be interested in. No, it's no, but I do appreciate you putting it together. I think it's an important conversation. I'm sure it's good to have that insight from two people who really occupied, the middle ground, which seems to be getting abandoned by both parties in many ways, unfortunately. Because that's where most of the voters are in the middle. But exactly. One was Republican who considered a Democrat. Yeah. In terms of the Berks County question, I do know that Berks County is often included in southeastern PA by the Commonwealth in a couple different, ways. I think maybe in the health department, that when they break up the state into regions by the state health department, I think Berks is included when they do regional. There's a few things where it is, whereas whoever they were with, other of the counties they were partnering with usually are not. So, I don't know the other counties that were involved or where they're going, any other comments or thoughts about Mr. Warren's? No? Okay. All right, Commissioner comments. Commissioner DiGirolamo?
Okay, thank you. Just real quick, our COO, Margie, took the words out of my mouth, what I was going to talk about our election and our election staff. They just did a terrific job. She neglected to mention that she herself was there till about 1 o'clock in the morning helping out, as was Gail, our chief clerk, 2 in the morning, Gail. She held up too. And also Amy Fitzpatrick, who's in the back, was there as well. I didn't stay that long, nowhere near that long, but they just did a terrific job, a tremendous job. They really did. And had almost all the votes counted. I think there's still a few more to count, but by midnight or a little after, they had just about all the mail-in ballots counted, which was 46,000. So they did a terrific job. And again, until we get some help from the legislature as far as allowing us to pre-canvass the ballots, at least to open the envelopes and extract the ballot without counting, I think that would be a big help, not only for our Board of Election, but for all the boards of elections across the state of Pennsylvania. And just a comment on this past election, and boy, that was really something else, wasn't it? I think on both sides, Democrat and Republican. And the thing that jumps out at me is the amount of money that was spent on both sides, Democrat and Republican. I don't know if that's healthy for democracy or not. I haven't thought it was for a long time. And it seems more and more that more of this money is being used for advertising, especially on these TV commercials, these 30-second spots. And a lot of it is coming into entities that are like nonprofit, 501c3, C4s. And the problem with that is that most of it is what we call dark money, where they do not have to make public where the money is coming from. And to me, that's a problem. And I know they're not supposed to be allowed, or they're not allowed to coordinate with the campaign. I'm assuming they're not, if they're not allowed to, right? They don't do that. But I really think that we ought to find a way, not only here in Pennsylvania, but across the country, and trying to limit that type of money where the donors or the people who put money into these nonprofits and help the campaigns out, they just don't know where the money comes from. And I just don't think that's healthy for democracy. And that's my one concern. My other concern continues to be, as we went through this redistricting process again, is coming up here in Pennsylvania with some type of redistricting reform. I think that would also be really healthy for democracy as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think we all kind of agree on all those points. Commissioner Marseglia.
Well, I would just like to say ditto about what Marge said about Gail and what Commissioner DiGirolamo said about Margie, but I would like to add that Commissioner Harvey, who is the chair of the Board of Elections, was here till at least midnight last night, all day long. That is a very unusual thing for a chair of a Board of Elections or a commissioner to do, but he does it every single time because he's he's making sure that we have secure, fair, and accurate elections, and kudos to you for doing that for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I left early last night. It was like 11 o'clock, I think. So I left. That was,
Oh.
yeah, I didn't stay for
That was still a long day.
Still a long day, yeah. Yeah, I mean, certainly it's one of our members of our staff, the communications department, who was mentioned today, he said every election he gets more and more amazed at the job that's done by the people who work here. And obviously we can talk about Ms. Humphrey, who does a great job, Mr. Freitag, who heads up the elections department. The people work under him, all of the county employees who come in and work 4-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts at any time of the day, starting at whatever 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. all the way through to, we had a shift come in at 10:30 last night. And that's, yesterday was a day off, I mean, for the county. I mean, you didn't have to come in. They're getting paid, but still, it's something that, an unintended consequence of Act 77 is this is a much more expensive and complicated way to run an election. And there was no accompanying funding to help us with this, so it's been a challenge. But just to kind of talk about a few things, people always wonder, well, what's left? What's the count? I know some of the races are very close. So in terms of what we have here, there are still, we still have until the 24th of this month for any overseas ballots to come in. Military, civilian, federal ballots, anybody who's overseas, they're allowed to send those ballots back until the 24th of May. We set out about, doing a quick math here, about 150 or so of those have gone out, so waiting for those ballots to come back. So far we've received, it looks like, about 75 of them. So maybe about half of them have come back. In terms of mail-in voters, we mailed out about 60,000 ballots. We received back about 48,000 mail-in and absentee, so about 70, almost an 80% return rate, which is a little slightly higher, I think, than we've been in the past couple elections. We do still have some issues in terms of, people following the rules a little bit and getting the ballots in, and this is something the Board of Elections will have to vote on in terms of these. We did receive about 47 ballots, mail and absentee ballots, back that were not dated. We received about 59 that came back in the secrecy envelope, but the secrecy envelope wasn't sealed. And so that's a question we're going to have to ask. About 11 came back with some kind of identifying mark on them. On the secrecy envelope, you're not allowed to write anything. I mean, I guess you can draw a little heart, but you can't say, I heart, this candidate. You can't include, I love this person or any other kind of slogan, or you can't put your name on it. And so we still have some people, not many, 11, who still think maybe they need to sign the ballot, or they just want to put a little personal message on the secrecy envelope, and you can't do that, not allowed to do that. About 8 came back with no signature. About 10 came with a date out of range, meaning they put a date down. Sometimes people put their birth date down because they think they have to write their birth date instead of the date they're actually signing the ballot. So, and there are miscellaneous issues with about 15 other ballots. There are about 338 ballots that are being held, sequestered temporarily, because they were taken out of ballot boxes where somebody had come and put in 2 ballots at the same time. As has been our practice, all those instances are forwarded to the district attorney's office, where they have the ability to investigate and decide whether or not to press charges against the person if they can identify the person who did that. But we hold on to the ballots that were in the ballot boxes at that time until that investigation is done, and then the Board of Elections votes on whether or not to accept those ballots. We did have, in almost every case, we're seeing a decline in, the errors people make. Now, some of these errors are what would be called fatal flaws, meaning that the law does not allow us to count these ballots. So if you sent a ballot back to us in just the mailing envelope and not the secrecy envelope, a naked ballot, the law is clear, we cannot count that. And we saw 226 ballots returned that we are not going to be able to count. And that's obviously something now, out of 48,231, that's, it's a pretty good ratio, but obviously we want that number to be 0. We want everybody to use secrecy envelope. We do send instructions. If you've never done mail-in balloting before, there are instructions that go out. The envelope itself has instructions on it, for you to make sure you're doing things the right way. And so it's, we're going to try and continue to do our best to educate people. This is still a relatively new process for people, and so it's a little understandable. But we want to make sure we're trying to do everything we can to make sure every vote counts. And one of the things I think, certainly of the past couple of years, we've heard a lot about election fraud. That sort of really even more than just the last couple of years. The groundwork for election fraud has been laid by certain people and entities for over a decade now, despite the fact that under President George W. Bush's presidency, there was an investigation done that found that there was virtually no voter fraud happening, in especially widespread voter fraud. And there was an attempted investigation during President Trump's first year in office that ended up just ceasing its work because they couldn't find enough evidence, and so they just stopped. I thought it was interesting that last night, pretty much during most of the evening, most of the day, from 7 a.m. until about 1:30 when things finished up, neither of the political parties, either here Bucks County political parties or state political parties, sent anybody to watch the process. Under the law, each political party was entitled to send watchers. We had two, I think, that came later on, or came quickly through, did not stay incredibly long. Certainly if there were rampant voter fraud happening, I would think that you would want to have watchers watching. So the fact that you didn't have watchers watching, I think, says a lot about at least what the political parties here in Bucks County feel about the job our staff does and about the integrity and the security of the elections that we have here. I think it speaks volumes. And so I think that's important to note that we had that situation. This is a meeting before Memorial Day, a couple of weeks from now. And while it's always sort of seen as the unofficial start of summer and barbecues and things like that, it is a very solemn day to remember anybody who served this country in times of war or peace, foreign or domestic, who've lost their life in protection of our nation. It's sort of my usual belief that you should be living your life to honor those people who are no longer around because they gave their life. Are you doing their memory the service it deserves? And sometimes, soul searching is difficult for people, but I think it's something necessary to look in the mirror and think about your actions and your words and the way you treat people. We've, as Mr. Huda mentioned earlier, we've had situations in Buffalo, in California. There's another one down south of mass shootings and violence, which seems to be racially motivated, or in some cases definitely racially motivated. Politically motivated violence we've seen, unfortunately, increase. White supremacy has been increasing now for over a decade in this country. I agree with the President that it is certainly, it is domestic terrorism. It is the biggest threat we face in this country in many ways. Is that doing service to those who've died? From the foundations of this country, people of different racial and ethnic backgrounds gave their life. From the Boston Tea Party up through conflicts that we're seeing now. Certainly there are people of different ethnic groups and religious groups, people who are of both genders and people who are of every kind of orientation who have served this nation and continue to serve this nation. And we like having them there, and we say how much we love the flag, and we say how much we love their service. Do we really love the person? Or do we just want to talk about the uniform? And so I think it's incumbent upon us to remember Memorial Day is something where we really start looking at how we live our lives and the kind of speech we use, the kind of websites we follow, and maybe we should stop following some of them. So finally, just a note for those here in the room, a couple boxes in the back. They are COVID tests that have been provided and we still have. The county still has some COVID tests, so please feel free to take some. We've seen, there's definitely sort of a spike going on, and fortunately, it's, I think now that people are vaccinated or have had opportunity to be vaccinated for over a year now, I think it's incumbent upon us to sort of take more personal responsibility. So there's tests in the back. Appreciate Audrey Kenny bringing those with us, or for us here today. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.